10 o'clock. Should we start or should we wait? Morning, everyone.
Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to today. Hello, am I audible, ma'am?
You are. It's breaking a little, but you are. Your camera's frozen right now, but I know you're there.
We are sorry for that. Actually, Meera is traveling for her field work. She's in Kerala right now, where there are heavy rainfalls, and because of that, she's unable to get through the network today. So, thank you, one and all, for joining us for yet another amazing class by Dr. Madhurima Das. So, without further ado, I'll request Madhurima ma'am to please begin with today's class. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Niharika. Thanks, Meera. So I hope participants will have got the exercise book. That is for us to do it during the class today. Okay, there are activities and we're going to have some fun. Okay, so today's learning is again about fun. It's about understanding storytelling. But then I think in the last class, a lot of you wanted to know how should your body language be, right? How should your tonality be when you're presenting? So what I've done is I have actually incorporated that into the session today also. So I'm going to first start with that component, and then I will move on to storytelling and narrative technique. Okay, because I realize a lot of you had concerns on that. Hi, Victor. I see your hand go up. Do you have a question as we start?
To unmute you. Yeah.
Hello, good morning, ma'am. I was actually kinda reluctant to ask you a question regarding the previous class.
Please ask
It's
me.
about
Yeah.
that. So actually, like I have actually faced a lot of problem when I'm proposing my research proposal in front of the DRC, like in the Departmental Research Committee.
Okay.
So they actually keep on hipping their ideology that no, you should be working on this and that way. But me being a part of the community, when I have more knowledge on the insider perspective as well as the autoethnography, the passive aggression actually keeps on coming into me. Maybe like I'm not saying them anything on their face, but it
Okay.
actually irritate me later on. So how should I actually mitigate this problem? That's my
Okay.
question to you.
There are two things, Victor. I think the topic that you have chosen, right? You are looking at bisexual men and their preferences in communication. Is that what it was? If I'm not wrong, was that your area of study broadly?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Bisexual
Now,
loneliness. Yes.
yeah, bisexual loneliness. Now, the whole idea is that you first have to understand that the university you're signed up with, right, and the institute you're with, do you have professors who actually work on gender and sexuality? That's your first thing. Okay, because what is happening right now is, even though we have people specializing in gender studies, and sexuality, you will have to find a guide who's empathetic. You will have to find a guide who understands the challenges of your area of work. Okay, so the passive aggression that you are facing is something that a lot of times when you take up topics which are unconventional, people may face it. Okay, but as a researcher, as long as you have the support of your guide, okay, you shouldn't worry about the passive aggressiveness that comes from other ends. These are things that you will have to deal with, and Victor, your area of work is not going to be easy. Correct? So it's like if any of us had to study minorities, if we had to study a policy that's not very popular, right, but we are studying the implications of the policy, we will face, there will be challenges from societal quarters, challenges from a cultural point of view. Okay, so you will have to brace yourself. If there's passive aggression, one of the ways to deal with it is be assertive. Call out that aggression. A lot of times people who are passive aggressive, right, don't like to be recognized that they're aggressive. They like to believe that, you know what, I'm saying what's on my mind, but I'm doing it calmly, but they're not. They're being very aggressive towards you. So call out that aggression and tell them that, if you have something to say it out loud. But again, don't burn your bridges, because in Indian universities, your connection with the university matters for a thesis work. Your relationship with the guide matters. So don't burn your bridges, but don't let that affect you. It's not about you, it's about them. The passive aggressiveness is coming because of their own mindset. It's not about you. So understand that. I think that is something that a lot of times we as human beings think it's us. It's not us. It's about somebody. If somebody's being aggressive, it's about them, right? And I think this is something for all of us to keep in mind. Okay, if somebody is being rude to you, it's not you, it's them. It's their behavior that's wrong. Correct? So why do we take it upon ourselves to want them to be nice? You can't control it. Remember, it's not in your control. And I'm going to talk about that in my last session. As a researcher overall, what's in our circle of influence? Why is persuasion important as a tool? And that's where I'm closing my communications thing, because I think something that we are not taught as researchers. How do you persuade somebody? How do you, we are taught argumentation tools and theories, but there's only so much those theories work in writing. When you're actually interacting as a researcher, there are other more practical things that also become important. So we will talk about it. Yeah. Okay, Victor, just keep that in mind and don't let that those thoughts ambush you at all. I think that's important. Okay, all right, everyone. Welcome to today's session. I understand that today is festival in various parts of the country. So thank you for making the time amidst the festivities. But without much delay, let us begin. Okay, there we are. I think the internet has also decided it's on a holiday. It's kind of giving trouble, but okay. Niharika, do let me know if you feel there is a lag at any point of time. Yeah,
Yes.
so I will repeat myself if I think you have missed out. Okay, so let's look at what are we doing today, right? Like I said, because you all had questions on virtual presentations, body language. So what I'm doing is I'm going to spend some time to understand this better, to tell you all why is it that it was very different if you had to go to a conference, meet somebody in person and present. But today, a lot of our conferences, at least the way things are, I think for the next one more year, most of us will be doing presentations online, right? So I'm going to spend some time on understanding what is it that you have to keep in mind if you have to virtually present. What are the things to keep in mind? How should your body language be? Your body language is as important. In a conference, you cannot hide behind a camera. You have to come on camera. So what are the things that you will have to keep in mind? Okay, so we're going to look at that. So let me quickly ask you, what do you feel? How do you feel about virtual conversations? How do you, this entire thing of no human connect, talking to each other like this, how do you feel about it? On the chat, quickly, type in your answers. It is virtual, but what do you feel about it? It's not real. Okay, it's a little disconnected. Okay, okay. All right, thanks Narsimha, thanks Dhriti. Anybody else? Archana says it's great. Okay. All right. Cannot show potential, comforting but disconnected, more comfortable. Loss of non-verbal, distant. Okay. For some of you, it's comfortable. That's interesting. Okay. It's okay. The reach is maximum. Yeah. If it wasn't virtual, I wouldn't have been able to teach all of you across. So that's a huge. You don't find any difference. Interesting. Different perspective. Oh yeah, Rishabh, if you're an ENTJ, it can be difficult. It can be difficult. Okay. Hard to make effective communication, increased access, becomes confident. I feel a little bit good in virtual. Okay, we can reach many, just the technical glitches. Okay, okay, shy, okay, in front of camera. A lot of us are. Okay, so we see two sides of it, right? There are some of us, a lot of times I think people who are introvert have actually adjusted better, because you can stay off the camera and just say when it's necessary. But I think yeah, Nisha, you're just writing what I was saying, that virtual communication is best to some extent, but it has worked for introverts is what we have observed. But for extroverts, I think the human connect and the loss of human connect has been very, very tough. Yeah, for example, I'm a person as a facilitator. I like connect. I have a lot of thing about touch, feel. I think it's important. It's important to look at somebody. It's important to see how the eyes are expressing. It's important for me beyond the voice, right? And that is something I initially missed, but I've got used to it. Some of you have said challenges like collaboration is difficult, or maybe the connect is not there. So what has happened with virtual communication today is the lot of large onus of the effort comes on the facilitator, right? As a facilitator, I have to do a lot of work, lot of background work, lot of homework to be able to connect with my participants, right? And some of us may often may be good with humor, and we know how to use humor. But I have attended sessions where I've had facilitators crack the most inane jokes, and they think people are laughing, okay, and it just falls flat. So unless you have the skill for it, it's very difficult. And not everybody realizes that what works face to face often doesn't work virtually, because virtually, as each of you look into the camera, you should think I'm talking to you, right? You could be 1 in 300, but you should think I'm talking to you. In real, what happens, you can see me. So the connect is completely at a different level. Okay. And I know a lot of us are craving for that real connect, are craving for that human component. But while it takes time, why don't we like brace ourselves and understand what's good about virtual also, right? There are some things now, yes, collaboration can be difficult. Like Amit, I understand. See, when we have a large group like this, I usually train very small groups. My training groups are maximum 20, 25. I ideally like 10 to 15, but some of my niche trainings, but some trainings I'm expected to train about 30 people. And at that time, I use a lot of breakout rooms because I put people in smaller groups. I see how they behave, you know, so I'm literally jumping between breakout rooms to see what's happening. Collaboration was difficult initially before we understood how to use the tools, but now with tools things are different. Again, you know, it depends on how you're using Zoom. I personally like Zoom and Microsoft Teams a lot. I find WebEx quite cumbersome. I just don't find the human touch at all, because the WebEx by itself, that I don't know how many of you have used WebEx, the tool itself looks very boring. Okay, so it's again a personal choice. But then does that mean that I don't work with clients who have WebEx? No, I don't, because in virtual communication, the biggest learning is to be available, to be adaptable to any form of technology. And I think as teachers, as facilitators, that becomes very, very important. When you want to reach out to do your field work, right? You can't choose, you know what, I will do this, I will not do this. This doesn't work. It doesn't. It doesn't. I adjust depending on the platform I'm given as a facilitator. And like I always joke, I'm from Bengaluru. So I used to tell people, you know, I used to run from Electronic City to Whitefield for sessions. Now I'm literally jumping between WebEx, MS Teams, and Zoom. And that's how life has become in the last 1 year. Right. So the transition is between the tools we are using. And you know, it's reduced travel time, but it's also taken away a lot of the human component. But then as facilitators, it's important for us. It's important for us to connect. Why do I do these little polls? Why do I do? Because when I have such a large group and I can't do smaller face-to-face things, I have to try and connect with each of you. So these are tools you have to learn to use as facilitators. Okay, but let's look at it. Yeah, let's look at how to make this virtual a little more real, a little more. Like I said, nothing beats face to face. I mean, I'm with all of you on that. And I think especially for some of us who may have been in the teaching profession, you know, who have taught academically also, it's very difficult. Right, I miss meeting my master students face to face, and I miss doing classes face to face. I miss rickety benches. I miss the creak of a chalk or a PPT. I miss that, right? But we have all adjusted, and that adjustment is important for us because that's where adaptation comes in as a researcher, and you know, learning in that way. So let's look at this. So when we do personal conversations, right, what's one of the challenges that can happen? Often in personal conversations we digress, and so much time is spent talking about chai, about the weather, about somebody else, you know, if it's work, if it's it happens, right? In personal, when I'm face to face, we have a lot of time, right? So you're sitting relaxed, and then conversations digress. Okay, but in a virtual, often you will have to have agenda because we have hard stops. Like my class is 2 hours, I cannot extend it. I know each of you will have commitments post 1 o'clock, right? But in a face-to-face, what would happen even if it's 5-10 minutes? I'm like, okay, you know what, guys, 5 more minutes, let's discuss this, right? So these are things that are different. One benefit of personal is in virtual, what's difficult is often misunderstandings, right? The reason I ask you all to constantly ask me questions is so that there is no misunderstanding. Because, you know, if you have not understood something and have continued on, you have lost your track. You've completely lost the track. Okay, so that shouldn't happen. So that's why I'm constantly trying to ask you all, okay, have you got it? You know, can you show me a thumbs in something? And with a large group, it becomes even more challenging for me as a facilitator, right? Personal conversation, one of the benefits is people can express, like I think a lot of you said you miss that body language on a virtual thing, right? So benefit in a face-to-face is obviously the body language, the gesture, the words, okay? But in virtual, if you put on your video, you can take care of that to some extent, okay? But what is the benefit? Like I think one of the participants wrote, conversations with anyone from anywhere and anytime, right? We are still connecting. We are connecting across cities. You all are from across cities. Some of you are not even from India. Okay, so we are connecting across cities for this virtual session. So that's a benefit. Okay, then when we look at personal conversations, what is expectation management? My expectation is something that I can set. I can do it in small, you know, small bits, and there's more validation because I'm constantly checking on it. So whether it's a colleague, whether you're you know, a research scholar, whether you're a master student, that expectation management is constant with your teacher, with your guide, with your peers. Okay, in a virtual conversation, this has to become more agile, which means we'll have to be a little flexible. We'll have to find leaner systems of doing it. I cannot complicate the matter. I cannot send you a memo. I'm going to send you a bulleted three-point email to tell you this is what our agenda is, this is what we are looking at for today's class. Right? That agility has come in and the reaction time has reduced. We are expecting things quick. I give you a task, I expect you to do it in 10 minutes. In a classroom thing, I may have a little more time. Right? I may be able to give you 15, 20 minutes for an activity, but over here, what am I doing? I give you like 7, 8 minutes and I say, okay, guys, let's do this. And let's see. So the reaction time has reduced with the virtual communication, right? Orientation in a face-to-face communication, it starts with building trust and wanting to build trust. Okay. But in a virtual communication today, it is very, very result oriented. Right? Whether you all are going for the meetings, like I'm sure a lot of you are working professionals, and I feel amazed at how you all have actually made time, which means you're good at planning your time. You have been able to prioritize a course, give it some time during a weekday morning, right? But which also means what? Because there's a result focus, because you want to learn something. So there is a goal, and you have defined how that goal is for you, and that orientation has become very strong in a virtual communication framework today. Fundamental, right? In a personal conversation, you're confident about the result because you've clarified things, you know it, okay? But in a virtual conversation, what becomes fundamental at the end of the day? When I give you exercises and I say, you know what, we're going to do this, I want you to go back and do. I don't have the time to check. But I have confidence in the rapport that I have built, that you have understood what needs to be done. And you will go back and maybe look at it. Even if out of 200, 300 of you, even if 40, 50 of you look back and go back and look at it, it's actually my job done. Yeah, because that's a percentage, right? It's like when you do a survey, what's your survey success rate? How do you define it? Correct? So you have to understand that, yes, are there challenges in virtual? There are. But are there advantages? There are also some advantages. So when given a choice, given the current scenario, when we know that cases are only rising, and to see that, Karnataka yesterday had over 9,500 cases. Okay, all the way India, I think it's 1 point something, 1.4, 1.6 something. All right, it's a large number. And I don't see us going back to face-to-face. In fact, I had started face-to-face for my master's students, and then we moved online again. Okay, so we know these challenges are there, right? And we're all dealing with it. Okay, some of us have the comfort of sitting back at home and working. Not everybody has that. So look at the advantages given in the current situation and make the most of it. All right. So I really like this cartoon here. It says, oh, how was my presentation? Give it to me straight, huh? No sugarcoating. Well, you put half the audience to sleep and had 3 walking ovations. Okay. Oh, well, how did my slides look? Okay. It can be very, very difficult to gauge how a virtual presentation goes, right? There's only so much that you can get in terms of feedback. There's only so much you can get in terms of interaction, but as people who are listening and as people who are part of the course, you have to remember, you have to be constantly cued in, right? I have to be constantly cued into the chat box. I'm constantly cued in to see if Meera or Niharika are sending a message to me on WhatsApp separately to kind of tell me about something that's happening that I need to keep in mind, right? So that constant being cued in becomes important as somebody who's doing a presentation virtually. Sunil, I agree with what you have said, that even in a real class, interaction depends on personality. Interaction depends on personality, interaction depends on the facilitator, even in a real class. Okay, but right now what has happened is, I think having moved to virtual, a lot of us have suddenly realized the large advantages of a real class. Okay, and yes, we were initially scrambling, but I think now we are all doing a little better, or much better, in terms of our virtual communication. But when you're presenting virtually, right, there are a couple of things you need to keep in mind. We go back to over here, the 5 W's again. Why are you giving the presentation? Whom are you giving the presentation to? Remember, why is the most important thing. Whom are you giving it to? Who is your audience? Where are you giving the presentation to? When are you giving it? Right? For example, if I have sessions which are later in the evening, I do have some corporate trainings where I do maybe post 2 o'clock, 2 to 6 or 4 to 6. Okay. And then there are some sessions which I do morning 8 to 10. Now, depending on the time of the day, I also decide how I want to break ice, how I want to do an interactive activity. Right. So that becomes important in virtual presentation, to actually be clued in on that. Okay. What is the purpose of the presentation? Why is Why are you giving it? What's your end goal? What is the purpose? What is the audience looking at? This becomes important, right? Every module, when I prepare the presentation, I keep this in mind. What am I doing? I know the time. So I know it's 11 to 1, right? So that doesn't change for me. My when and where is more or less set, but my other things, my whom is also set, but why and what keeps changing with every module, with every class. And you have to constantly be cued in. Now, if you all are formally presenting at a conference, right? This is a formal virtual presentation. A couple of things that you have to keep in mind. One thing is keep your camera on. It's important, okay? Unless you have really bad bandwidth, okay? But in most, if you are making the presentation, your camera should be on, okay? So always be prepared. Make sure your mobile has charge in case you need to shift to, hotspot your mobile data from your Wi-Fi, okay? Make sure if you have a dongle, make sure the dongle is charged. Okay, keep your self camera off. For some of us who are very conscious, you should keep the self camera off because otherwise you have a constant thing to look at it. Okay, but then ideally 3 feet from the camera. So ideally, which means from the laptop, I sit at about 2 feet distance. If you're too close, it's only the neck that you see. If you're too far, you see a lot more than you actually want to see in a virtual thing. Thanks, Rishabh. You're being incredibly kind. Okay, then your virtual background. Now, I don't use a virtual background, but then I have a background which is a cupboard, which is brown, and I'm okay with it. Okay, but there are a lot of people who may not want a virtual background or their real background to be seen. So at that time, you'll have to see if you want to either blur your background or choose a virtual background. But what happens at that point of time is a lot of times your hands get cut, in a virtual background. So you'll have to also be aware of that. Then you have to make sure there's light on your face when you're speaking. Okay, the next thing is your volume, neither too loud, not too soft, right? Then people miss out. Wear attire that's no bias. What does that mean? Don't wear attire which have writings on it, which could, reveal a bias or which have some kind of an connotation. Do not wear attires with things written on your t-shirt or your tops. Okay, that's important. Dress up. Dress up doesn't mean fanciful, right? Dress up only means that, wear things that work for the scenario. I'm so sorry about my phone is silent. Okay, wear things where, you're formally dressed, semi-casual, but again, depending on the environment. If you're just having a thing with your peers or your, classmates or your colleagues, okay, I mean, it's just an informal thing. Nobody really cares what you're wearing, more or less, okay? But again, we all have seen the bloopers on the internet. If you're wearing shorts and a formal shirt, don't get up in between the meeting, right? I mean, there are a couple of things that you have to keep in mind. So dress up, formally, which looks all right, which looks neat. I always urge my, people who are presenting, and when I teach presentation, I always urge that, get up from your bed in the morning, take a bath, and then sit for your sessions. Okay, especially if you're the speaker, because it gives you a freshness. It's good. It's a good way to present, right? And so if you're looking all groggy, feeling all groggy, makeup, very, very personal choice. I personally don't wear any makeup. Okay, the only thing I do is a bindi. Okay, but then there are some people who like to do makeup, but you also have to understand how much is the makeup showing on the virtual camera. Okay, so this is for people who like to use makeup. You'll have to know how it's showing. So you'll have to be a little careful about that. But there's no rule which says no makeup or you have to put makeup, nothing like that. You'll just have to be aware of what you're doing. Okay, now a couple of things about how do you present better, right? When I'm presenting. So those were about, what were the previous slide about? About your presence. How do you look? How do you focus, right? The next thing is about how to present better. Now the real presentation. Like I always tell you, have cue cards, have notes, right? It's important. If you're somebody who cannot remember, who cannot just remember from the presentation few points, have your cue cards with you. There's nothing wrong in looking at a cue card once in a while. Okay, the next thing is visually appealing, not appalling. Like I said, I mean, a basic attempt to look a little presentable. It's important. Okay, and again, don't wear clothes that, or don't have posters behind you or things behind you that may not be conducive for a presentation. Okay, now if you're in a Zoom, I've used Zoom as an example. Here we have a team. We have a lot of them: Meera, Niharika, we have Ashwini. Okay, we have and the gentleman with us. We have a large team at the back end which is helping me. But in professional things, when you're doing it, if you're at a conference, if you're presenting at a meeting, always see if you can have a co-host, because in case something goes wrong, there's somebody with a backup of your presentation. There is somebody who knows what it is. So it's not like you have lost power, your screen is gone, or something's happening. You at least have somebody who can immediately take over and share the screen, and you can continue talking. Okay, so it's always good to have a backup. In Zoom, you can have a co-host. In Teams, you can have a co-presenter. Okay, even in WebEx, it's possible. So whoever is a co-host can actually help you out. So make sure there's somebody there, having your back, and just the way you can volunteer to be there when that person presents. So it's a mutual understanding today in the virtual world. Okay, the next thing is use engagement tools, right? Like I'm using polls, or I'm trying to do some little activity. These are all engagement tools. Okay. I have a couple of questions. I will look at that in a moment. And okay, use engagement tools. You can use anything. Okay, I would ideally have liked to use a whiteboard, but like Meera and I have had this multiple conversation. We are a little worried if what will happen if I have so many of you writing on it, because it may not be clear. There are other tools also which are there, but not conducive for a large group, but for a smaller group, you can actually use them. It's important to track time. What I'll do, Nandini Akalu, is I will send you all a list of some of the engagement tools with my handout notes. Yeah, Meera, Niharika, please make a note of that. I will send you a list of a couple of links. Okay, they're online tools. You can look at them. I use Mentimeter for the poll. You have polls in Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams has forms which are embedded in it. But there are a couple of other whiteboard techniques or post-it techniques, tools which we can actually use. Okay, but it's a smaller group. They work beautifully. Otherwise, I have to create login for 200, 300 of you, which is what was not possible. Okay, so use them. Track your time, right? When I have a 2-hour class, if I have the topic, I'm always tracked on time. I know exactly how much time I'm going to spend on which segment. Okay, so I always queue in. I'm queued into time. I'm constantly trying to look at it. Okay, and that's important. At the start of every class, I tell you what we're going to do. And at the end of it, I always have a closing line on what is it that we have done. Right? That is very, very important when you're virtually presenting, because it shows that you know what your thing is. Zahida, you've asked me, will that have negative marking in DRC? What's DRC? Can you please tell me what's DRC? Is it a research committee, departmental research committee thing? Zahida, yes, no? Yeah. Zahida, what will have a negative marking? Are you saying that cue cards will have a negative marking? No, I'm not telling you hold your cue card like this and read. No. You have to be smart. So you have to keep them on the left, and you'll have to just a glance. Cue cards are not reading sheets. Cue cards are so that in case you think, you know what, in my head, I've forgotten 0.7 in my presentation, right? You have a quick look at what it is. Cue card is not to hold like this. Cue card is not reading from it. This is an empty paper. What I'm saying is cue card is not to hold. Okay. Cue card it's there. It's there for you to look. Okay. In online meetings, Rishabh, yes, cue cards are okay. You have to make sure how you don't look distracted, right? Okay, Spandita, camera on is your camera, like you can see me now, right? Now self camera, if I look on Zoom, now if I look on Zoom on the right side, right, there are 3 dots. There's something called hide self view, which means I can't see myself. Okay, but that's because a lot of people otherwise have a thing to keep looking at their own. So imagine, because I know my camera is on and I'm talking to you like this, you know what I'm doing? I'm looking at my self camera. You understood? That's why they say off the self camera if you're not able to manage that well. Okay, that's what this means. Okay, now being present in a presentation, a couple of things that I want you to quickly keep in mind, and I'm going to quickly run through them. Set the stage. Like I said, what are we doing? Why are you listening? What's the agenda today? What is the open and close every topic, right? I have to show enthusiasm. I may have done the topic a zillion times, but I have to captivate your energy, because we mirror off each other's energy in a session, right? And that becomes important in a virtual room. Okay, choose words. My words have to be positive. My words have to be energizing. My words have to be engaging. I have to set context. If I'm showing you data, I have to tell you what that data means. I can't just show you random data without source. Okay, whenever you're using numbers or data in a presentation. And my presentation visual has to be like an event. It has to be something that's appealing. It has to be something that's engaging. Otherwise, why would you even look at it? Right? I will not be able to engage you all if I you do that. My approach to the presentation very quickly, like I said, if it's a 10-minute presentation, keep images and visuals, bullet points, okay? It is an alternative to lecturing. Slides are not speaking notes. I'm not supposed to be completely reading out of them. That's just there for you to read and I'm going to talk, okay? Make sure it's visible. Sans serif fonts work very well for academic presentations, official presentations, okay? Not more than 7 to 10 lines, 4 to 8 words a line, okay? Make sure the font is visible. Use color wisely. I would have loved to use a lot of magenta maybe because I like the color, you know, or somebody I like only gray. But then your fonts have to be visible in a presentation. That's very, very important. Somebody wants to know what are some of the icebreakers. There's a lot of that online. I have done a couple of them with all of you during the course puja. How do you choose them based on your experience? Puja, the icebreaker has to be dependent on who your audience is, what is the topic you're teaching. So always connect your icebreaker with the topic. Okay, maybe in the last class, I'll do an icebreaker quickly with all of you to give that idea. And if I forget Puja, give me a reminder at the beginning of the last class next week. Timing yourself, it's very simple. Just the way you prepare for a presentation, write down that this segment 20 minutes, this segment 10 minutes. And it's important to keep that in mind. Soumyadeep wants me to go back to the previous slide. I have no idea why. Soumyadeep, I'm finding it difficult. Hold on. Soumyadeep, this is not like the holy grail, okay? But this is something I follow and I find it useful. But you'll have to see depending on your presentation and how much of data, what kind of presentation, depending on your discipline also. Okay, the next thing that some of you wanted to understand was body language. So I want to present to you quickly a couple of things, okay? Handshakes we don't have, but you know, these are a couple of the handshakes. I will put that in. But yeah, the eye movement becomes important, right? Now, your left and right, okay? This is my left, this is my right, as I'm looking at you on the screen, okay? When my eyes move to the left, it's something I'm imagining, okay? When my eyes move to the right, it is memory. Okay, now when in a presentation, say somebody is asking you a question and you're going to talk something out of memory, invariably your eyes are looking right. This is just a cue. Okay, not that stringent, but it's a cue. Okay, and if somebody is looking left, their left, not your left, their left, they're invariably trying to make up the answer or something like that. Okay, it's also about, you know, so right side, when I'm looking on the right, it's all about memories, memory based thing. Okay, but kinesthetically, when I'm looking down, it's like about having an internal dialogue. Should I say this? Will this work with the participants? But if I'm, you know, looking on the left side and I'm looking down, it's more like, okay, have I been able to tap what they're feeling? Have I been able to understand where they're coming from? Right? So while these are eye positions, while I'm looking at another person, virtually also, I'm very conscious about this, maybe because I train on body language. Right? I'm always, for example, a lot of times, you know, if I'm trying to imagine a scenario or give you a hypothetical scenario, invariably my eyes would have moved left. I've not noticed, but that is what would happen. Okay. But if I'm trying to remember an incident and give you an anecdote, invariably my eyes would have moved right. Okay. These are just some cues of body language that experts of body language talk about. Okay. And that's how we move on to it. Rishabh, the timing of online presentation is just completely your thing. You will have to time it. And like I said, people's attention span is 7 to 8 minutes. So every 7 to 8 minutes, ask a question, engage people. That's how you'll have to do it. It's very difficult. I cannot really give you a template on it. But if you like, for example, have a content piece, right? And you will have to understand where should you focus on. So spend more time on it. Intro and conclusion are just very small things. But if you're meeting a group for the first time, spend initial few minutes breaking ice with the group, right? In my first session, I spent some time breaking ice with all of you, but henceforth then I spent only about 90 seconds doing that every class, wherein I ask you a question or there's something we connect with, or I recap something and then I start off. Okay, so that becomes important. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about few things on body language that's very important. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about 10 things. Now, while this is important face to face, this is also important virtually, right? For example, when I'm doing a presentation, okay, can all of you, hold on, I'm going to move this a bit. Can all of you see me? I'm at a distance. Can you all see me? Niharika, can you see till my chest?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So for example, this, right? When I'm talking to you, what's the first point? The first point is open your hands. Don't sit like this in a presentation when you're making a presentation or when you're being asked a question. Face to face, the same thing is important. In a virtual, it's important. The moment a participant sits like this, I know you're closing off. Okay, the next thing. So open your hands when you're talking. Keep your hands, yeah. Even if you're not using it like I do, I use my hands a lot. If you're not using your hands, just hold your hands, right? I have seen a lot of presentations where people are sitting like this, okay? You only see the neck at a point, and that becomes difficult, right? But if I have to connect, I have to use my hands, I have to use my face, okay? The next thing is smile. You break ice when you smile, okay? And I've had participants who have said, ma'am, I don't have a nice smile. I said, whoever has told you that? Every smile is nice. It's an amazing thing what a smile can do, because you automatically, the person opposite you will mirror a smile, however wretched a day they are having, and trust me on this. Okay, so even if they are not feeling as happy as you are, they will at least be polite and smile back, and that breaks ice on a virtual communication. Gesture, look in the eye, right? I see some of you on camera all the time, which I thank you for, because I know some of your faces by now, and if I have to do a match the following of picture of your face and your name, I'll be able to do it. Yeah, and that's the advantage of virtual. But for the others who don't have, some of you have photos, some of you have a black thing, I imagine how it would be, you know, and that is important. So it doesn't mean that if, for example, if I have to put these small boxes of your faces on my screen, I will also at times look, you know, I don't skip, I look across, because I know that you're looking at me from the other side of the black box. So that gesture becomes important. Okay, and in a situation when you are the presentation, if you want to establish authority, don't have to be aggressive. You do have to be assertive. You have to stay calm, right? Like I've said a lot of times, I don't have all the answers. Okay, and I've always told you I'll get back to you. Yeah, or let me check, or I'll send it to you in the handout, because I may not know it, and I don't want to tell you things I don't know, right? Because it's not right. Okay, so that's establishing authority during speaking, even in a virtual thing. In a virtual setup, it's even more important to be calm, because you lose audience very quickly. Okay, the next thing is, you know, when I'm doing face to face, and if I have to talk to you, I will walk. So here what I do, for example, if there are questions being asked, and at the end of the session, when, you know, I stop presenting and it's all of you, if I'm listening to somebody, I'm not sure how many of you have noticed, my body leans a little, because I'm trying to listen, I'm trying to show you I'm interested. And that's also important in a virtual setup. Okay, for a lot of you, you may think, what am I talking about? But trust me, do these things, they make your presentation more impactful. Okay, the next thing, vary your gestures to suit your emotions. Like we spoke, right? Tonality. I have to sound excited if I'm going to talk to you about something exciting. I have to sound serious if I'm going to talk to you about something serious, right? And my intonation cannot be flat. I have to have that high and that low, and it has to move in such a way, because you're only listening. Some of you may be logged in on your phone, right? So I have to be able to connect to you. Okay. Now, at a point of time, it's also important that when I'm talking to you, right, at times I've told you, okay, look at my arrow on the screen, right? I'm moving this arrow around. Okay. So because I'm pointing to something that's important, right? Now, if I want you to participate, I call out your name. In a face-to-face thing, I'll walk towards you to encourage you. But in a virtual thing, what do? I call out your name, and I'll, like, you know, you cold call people, which is okay. Unless somebody turns back and is aggressive at you, you leave the person saying, I'm not interested. Right? But otherwise, cold calling on a virtual presentation to you know, ask people questions is absolutely okay. Right? While answering questions, always pause, answer with ease. Like I said, answer what you know. What you don't know, tell them, you'll get back. Right? That's the most sensible thing to do. Okay? It's the most honest thing to do. Finally, positive gestures, mirroring, smiling. Right? When I see you all smiling while you're asking me questions, I smile back, because that's a recognition that, you know what, I'm here, I'm listening to you, I'm invested in you. Okay, and that becomes very, very important. Would looking down be seen as a sign of shyness? Yes, Archana, but I will also have a problem if somebody's constantly looking at their feet. You know, I'm like, okay, why are they looking at their feet? Isn't there anything interesting on the screen? Right? So if you're shy, don't have to look constantly at the screen, but at least once in a while, you know, just look up, you know, distract yourself, look beyond. A lot of people look beyond their laptop screen. Okay, and you can't really figure out because of the camera level. But then that's a skill. It shouldn't look like, okay, you shouldn't tell your presentation like this. You know what I mean? The chin up. Then it's problematic. Okay, so the chin has to be at a level where then straight. And I can see you, you can see me. Right? We connect with each other. Sunil, many people react on impulse. Yes, they do. That's everywhere. I mean, like I said, I can't control that. You can't control that. So, but you can try and control about yourself, right? You can practice these things. Use a mirror and practice. It's a great leveler. It tells you all that you're doing wrong, right? For people who have worries about presenting virtually. I'm going to show you a video. Okay, I'm going to actually maybe stop sharing and then share again because I don't think I shared sound. So I'm going to share this again. I hadn't shared sound. Okay, let me.
So often we make business contacts by telephone, by email, through social media. It may be months or even years before we meet. When we do, we've made a good first impression, but then our body language kicks in. Does it help us or hurt us? Christine Yonke's going to talk about that with us.
I'm looking forward to meeting Deborah for the first time in person. And here are the things that I'll be looking for in terms of how I draw or form that initial impression. Number one, eye contact. Does she look at me directly? Two, what is the quality of her voice? Does it sound inviting? No doubt we'll shake hands, so I'll be feeling for the firmness of her handshake. And then finally, what does she say? What is her opening message to me? Can't wait to meet Deborah.
Well, I'm so glad that we could do this. I'd like to talk a little bit about the things that people do to help their case or hurt their case when they finally meet someone after making that connection by email, by phone, through social media. And when you and I spoke on the telephone, you mentioned that the voice is the one thing that carries over both from the phone to person. So let's start with that, and how does what people do with their voices help them or hurt them?
If there's any element of how we present ourselves that's overlooked by most people, it is the quality of your voice. But the starting point is knowing how you sound. Does your voice project confidence? Is the tone warm? Does it have resonance? Or on the other hand, could your voice etch glass? A common mistake, and it's not even so much a mistake, but it's more of just a function of nerves. If you are a junior person and maybe interviewing for a first job, it's not unexpected that you might speak more quickly. Your pace may be too quick. But to know that if you lower the tone of your voice a little bit, that literally adds more meaning to your words. A lower tone sounds more substantive, and what you're talking about sounds more important. So when you meet someone for the first time, I think the things that are really important are, number one, eye contact. So I was looking to see, would you look me in the eye? And you did. And that was a very positive signal. When you're talking about something that's really important to you, don't look away mid-sentence, but hold your eye contact until the end of the sentence or the end of the thought.
What if we need a little break to look down at some point? When can we do that?
Yeah, you do get to blink. Not blinking is a little zombie-like. That will look a little odd to the person that you're talking to. So absolutely, you want good, steady eye contact. What you don't want to do is the eyes up towards the ceiling, as if the answers are hidden there. Shifty eyes back and forth, darting, which makes you look very nervous, or constant up and down. So good steady eye contact. You know, you need to break away a little bit, and when you want to take a real pause, go ahead and look down in a substantive way.
How about our hands? The first thing we did was to shake hands.
You're sending a signal with that handshake. And there's nothing worse than someone who grabs a hold of your hand and hangs on too long and pumps and pumps and pumps. Or I think second worse, and I think women are a little bit more guilty of that, the little finger clasp.
Like a fish.
Yeah, just like, or a cold fish at the worst, right? Not good.
And posture? What's the difference and what should we be doing?
Well, you want to have good posture just like your mother always told you to. The trick is to drop your shoulders back, and that will give you a nice presence. And then notice how I'm tilting forward from the waist a little bit. This is a very interactive posture. I'm signaling to you that I'm engaged. I'm interested in what you have to say, and again, it's conversational.
There's so much good information here. What's the one thing you would like people to take away from all of this?
Good steady eye contact and good posture, and you'll create a great first impression.
All right. So that hold on. Okay, so that video is while it primarily talks about our body language, face-to-face thing. I think a lot of that also applies virtually to us. Okay, do we have any questions before I move on to the storytelling technique and research narratives? Do we have any questions? No, all good, participants, all good? Yeah. Okay, let's move on. The next component today is the storytelling technique and research narrative in the presentation. Okay, Niharika, you're able to see my slide clearly?
Yeah, I'm able to. No.
Yeah.
There's some obstruction in between.
Yeah, that's a chat which is opened up, but that's okay.
Yeah.
This is okay now? Yeah. Spandita, what do you mean by 0.5, Spandita? Spandita, can you tell me what's the 0.5 that you wanted a clarification on, or we can get back to that later?
I'm trying to unmute her if she wants to speak up.
Ma'am, I want to know the explanation of the 0.5. You told that use physical space, walk before you talk. I don't understand this.
Okay. Let me clarify that. For example, Spandita, if you're in a face-to-face conversation, right? And you're standing and presenting, correct? That's how we present in maybe a class presentation or a research presentation, right? Now, if you have to engage with your audience, unless if you're not using a podium, but you actually have the free space of the classroom while you're talking. Now, say I want to talk to you, Spandita, and say you're sitting on the third row or on the third table. If it's a corporate, it's usually tables, right? And what I'll do is if I want to address you, I will first walk and then I will address you. But it is a split-second difference between that. Okay, so in terms of my body language, I'm going to first walk towards you and then ask you the question. Are you able to understand that, Spandita? Okay, it's a practice element. If you all can see me. Niharika, are you all able to see me if I'm standing up?
Yes, but yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm talking to you, I need to move and then talk. Okay. So the movement of a step or two is what needs to be done first before I talk to all of you. Spandita, is that clear? I'm going to put back my earphones, but so the whole idea of component is that if I'm trying to reach out to somebody, I first have to connect with them physically. So the physical connect is walking a bit towards. Sunil, does it differ the cues of body language? No, some of it is common. Like there are some things which are very common, like don't look, but irrespective of which gender the person is, do not look below their neck. Do not look at their feet. Do not look at their waistlines. You have to look at the face while you're talking to somebody. Archana, the normal pace of speech differs. Some languages are spoken fast. For example, my rate of speech in English is very high. And therefore, I keep pausing and asking you all if you have understood. Sorry, somebody's talking in the background.
Hello, ma'am.
Sorry?
Pandita?
Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Pandita, tell me.
This in virtual meeting also?
No, not in virtual meeting. That is a face-to-face. That element was face-to-face. But in a virtual meeting, what do I do, Spandita? In a virtual meeting, if I can see all of you, I will lean a little towards you when I'm talking to you. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, if it's a 30-minute presentation, Sukanya, ideally 10 to 12 slides. For a 2-hour presentation, not more than 25 slides, 30 slides. Okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to take your questions a little later again, but we'll start looking at the storytelling techniques and the research narratives in our presentation. How much does the handshake mean? The handshake is very, very important. It shouldn't be too light. It shouldn't be too strong. It shouldn't be like, you're breaking somebody's hand. It shouldn't be like, which is very lightly. Men tend to interpret differently. Sunil, men and women interpret things differently, and I think that's a good thing. But I don't know what you mean by men interpret things differently from women in what context. You will have to ask me the question at the end of the session, and maybe we'll clarify on that. Right? Again, handshakes are cultural. There's a cultural element to it on how you shake hands, where you shake hands. Okay, some cultures are okay with shaking hands. Some cultures are okay with a peck on the cheek. Some cultures are, right now I think everybody is just doing a hello or an elbow tap or a namaste, right? So that's a current scenario, but we'll take this question up, Sunil. Ask me at the end of the session. So I understand what your question is and I'm able to clarify it, yeah? Okay, so when we look at storytelling techniques and research narratives, why are they important? Okay, so what are you doing when you're building a narrative? Each of you as researchers, you're a storyteller. Okay, now narrative structure is like a story and a plot. What is it that you're trying to talk about? Okay, and how can you make it a little more dramatic? When I say dramatic, I don't mean unrealistic, but just how are you going to talk about your research story? How do you use anecdotes? How do you talk about your methodology? That in a presentation, that becomes important. Without taking away the scientific rigor of your study, how are you engaging your audience? Okay, so if there are main characters, if there are conflicts, what's a main character? You don't have to have people as characters. Your study variables are your characters. Conflicts, what is the relationship you're seeing between your study variables? Is there a causality? Is there a correlation? Is there a regression analysis that you did? Is there an ANOVA that you did? Did you do a content analysis? Did you do a triangulation? Right? Qualitative studies have different ways of looking at narratives, but the narrative building here is about in a presentation, how are you the storyteller? How are you talking about your idea? How are you talking about your concept? You could be talking about a product, you could be talking about a service, anything. How are you doing it? For a lot of you who may be actually developing products, designing products, and looking at creating IP for it, intellectual property for it, you are a storyteller because you're going to pitch your idea, right? So narrative building is about that. I don't understand. There's something about stop sharing and share file only. Hold on. Give me a moment. I think, Niharika, is there some problem with the sharing?
Yeah, I just see your chat box open and
Hold on. I don't know why that's happening. Give me a moment. I have a video, I think, later, but yeah, okay. All right. I'm doing that, Ashwin. Give me a moment, please. Is it better now?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. Okay, but thanks for letting me know. Okay, so now do you see it's gone? I don't know what the black square mark was at all. I have no idea. Okay, it's gone now, right? All right, thanks, Ashwin. Thank you. Okay, so that's what you're doing. You're a storyteller, right? I absolutely love this picture, but it's about narrative building, right? It's about storytelling. Okay, and it's about ideas that are emerging. Okay, I'm not sure how many of you have seen this. I'm going to Professor Walter Lewin is a physicist, but he's also a fantastic storyteller. Okay, so it's a very, very popular video. Okay. Oh, after the video, you get those triangles. Okay, then maybe I'll stop sharing and do that. I'll do that, Narsima. Maybe that will help. Thank you. Okay, let's look at this video.
I am such a strong believer of the conservation of mechanical energy that I am willing to put my life on the line. If I release that bob from a certain height, then that bob can never come back to a point where the height is any larger. If I release it from this height and it swings, then when it reaches here, it could not be higher. There is a conversion from gravitational potential energy to kinetic energy back to gravitational potential energy, and it will come to a stop here. And when it swings back, it should not be able to reach any higher, provided that I do not give this object an initial speed when I stand here. I trust the conservation of mechanical energy for 100%. I may not trust myself. I'm going to release this object, and I hope I will be able to do it at 0 speed, so that when it comes back, it may touch my chin, but it may not crush my chin. I want you to be extremely quiet, because this is no joke. If I don't succeed in giving it 0 speed, then this will be my last lecture. I will close my eyes. I don't want to see this. So please be very quiet. I almost didn't sleep all night. 3, 2, 1, 0. Physics works, and I'm still alive.
All right, I'm going to again stop sharing and share because, like you said, there could be some issues. I'll go back to sharing my screen. All good now? You all don't see the square black thing, right?
No, yeah, it's all good.
Okay, all good. Okay, fantastic. So what do you see in that storytelling? It has 3 elements. We go back to our ethos, pathos, and our logos, right? The passion, the emotion, the pathos, the logic, the logos, and the ethics. Logic, right? Rationality, ethos, the credibility, right? All that comes in together in that single storytelling that Professor Lewin does. It's a fantastic video, okay? And I think there are more videos of his, but he captures it amazingly. Okay, so what I want you all to do now is, next up, I have an activity for all of you. Okay, you all have received a handbook which has a comic strip dialogue cue activity. That's your first activity today. Okay, now you have choices of about, I think, six or seven comic strips. I want you all to write a dialogue for them. Okay, and I want you all to be as imaginative as you can. I want you all to keep in mind the ethos, pathos, and the logos. You can either base it on emotion, you can base it on rationality and logic, or you can just base it on, you know, some credibility that you want to give the characters. Okay, so we will give each of you about, say, 7 minutes to do that. It's 11:58. We will give you all time till 12:05. Yeah, Niharika, are you with me here? I want you all to also time them along with me. We'll give them about 7 minutes. Okay, and they have to finish it, and they can copy the strip that they are doing in a Word doc and send it to you.
Yes, they can share the file on the chat.
Yeah.
So I'll be uploading
Okay.
them on the drive then.
Okay, so what we'll do is, I want you all to choose any one, not all of them, Narsimha, that will take us full day. I just want you to choose any one comic strip of your choice and write dialogues for them. The others you can do at home, you can do it with your family, with your friends, whoever. Okay, I have given you a choice. I wanted to give you all multiple choices. That's why I've given you so many of them. Choose any one, write the dialogue for them. I'm sure it's a relief. Copy that on a single document, okay, separately, and then share it on the chat with Niharika. And then whoever would like to present it and share it with the larger class, we can take about 3 or 4 maybe before we move on to some of the narrative techniques today. All right, have all of you understood? Yes? Understood the activity? Yes, no, not sure. What's happening? Yes, you all have understood. Okay, so I'll give you about 5 to 7 minutes from now. Please get on it. Choose one. Shubhrika, you haven't understood. Please open the handbook you have received, Shubhrika. You have received an exercise handbook this morning. There are comic strips in it. You'll have to write the dialogues. You may not be able to write it on the comic strips. So on the right side, you can say box 1, box 2, box 3, and write the dialogues. Okay? All right, everyone. I'll give you all about 5-7 minutes to do this. I'm also going to stop sharing my screen because I want to see you all writing. So I want to see if that's possible. Okay. All right, 7 minutes, all of you. Get working on this.
If you are done writing, you can just copy paste it on a Word doc and please share it in the chat.
Niharika, did you say something?
I was wondering if someone has finished it, they can just share it on the chat.
Yeah. Niharika, the other way for me to do this is,
Yes.
I can copy those cartoons onto the presentation.
Okay.
And whichever they have a dialog for, I can just open that slide. That is also okay, no?
Yeah, that's also okay, ma'am.
That may be easier. So let me just do that quickly then.
Okay, ma'am.
Because then now we don't have to spend time moving from one thing to the other.
Yes.
So let me do that. Hold on. I'm just opening the handbook and getting that in place. Participants, are we done? Participants, are we done? Have participants begun sharing? Uploading the file? Okay, fantastic. Narasimha, you're done. All right. So what you can do is don't spend time uploading the file. I will play the thing. I will put up the slide and I'll ask you if you have done that slide and if you want to share about it. And you can share about it. Does that work? Yeah? Because then, we're going to take too much time uploading. So maybe we'll save that time a little. And let's do it this way. Okay, so yeah, but you're more than welcome to send them across on WhatsApp or share it later if you want to. Okay, don't worry about that. Let me share the screen. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Visible? Yeah, all good. Okay. All right. So what we'll do is I've put it on. Come on. I guess Zoom has been acting a little funny today. Okay. Okay. How many of you have done that? Has anybody done this? Has anybody done this and would like to share? Anybody who's done this and would like to share quickly? No? Then I'll move on to the next one. Okay. Anybody who's done this? Doing, no problem. Okay. Narasimha, you have done this outer space comic strip, is it? Would you like to share what you have written? Fantastic. Please unmute yourself and share. Okay. All right. Before Narasimha starts, participants, how is the activity? What did you all feel while you did this activity? What's the first thought? Sukanya, Rajeshwari, you all doing the first one? Okay, we'll get back to it then. We'll get back to it. Give us a moment. Okay. What was your first thought when you did this comic strip? Okay, what was running through your mind? Okay, we'll do one thing. We'll start with Narasimha. Narasimha, so start as you share. I also want you to tell me what did you think and then tell us what your comic strip reads like. Yeah.
So I thought I hope I can give a best narrative as much as I can. That was the first thought.
Okay.
And I think I tried. So do you want me to read out the box 1, 2, and 3, 4?
Yeah, please. That's the whole idea. So that we know what you've written in your comic strip. Yeah, okay.
Okay. The box 1, the character is A, B. I made it A, B. A says, here we go for another space tour. And B says, how long do you think this time for the repair of the faulty equipment?
Okay.
And box 2 and A says, who knows? let's get it done as soon as possible and get back to Earth. And B says, sounds great. I hope you know what the problem is. The box 3, and I think it's an angel. And like it is saying, I'm sure they will fail this time also. And the last box, A says, glad it's over. And B says, I guess I'm not coming with you next time. This repair also looks superficial.
Okay, that was fun. There was some humor. It was interesting. And Narasimha, you're from an engineering background, aren't you? Yeah, so obviously that element of, you had to bring in the repair element somewhere in the entire theme, but very nicely done. Okay, all right. The first strip, I think some of you said you've done the first strip and maybe you would like to talk about it. Okay, my laptop just, the presentation just gets stuck at times if I want to move back. Give me a moment, please. Okay, anybody who would like to do the first strip? Remember, I know you're a lot of you, so whoever raises your hand first, I'll give you the chance. First strip, anybody wants to do the first strip? There's some of you who said you had presented it. You're working on it. Quick participants, come on. Can I share it? Yes, Rajeshwari, please go ahead. All right, Rajeshwari, let's see what you've written. Niharika, please unmute Rajeshwari. Niharika, Meera.
Doing that.
Okay. Participants, there is no right or wrong answer in these comic strips. The idea is for you to understand how narrative building can be done even with really small elements, right? And your research work is your own thing. It's your own creation. So there's so much content that you have to work with. But here, when I'm trying to, put you in a spot, give you 5-7 minutes, and I'm telling you that, do it as impactfully as you can, you will see how creative you can get with it. Okay, that's the understanding that you all should take back from this. And of course, this is also an engagement tool that I'm using, wherein I'm using something that you may not have expected to do in a research setup. Rajeshwari, can we start, please?
She's no longer in the meeting now.
Acha.
I think
she dropped out. Maybe we'll wait. Maybe I'll move on and I'll come back to this. All right, the third one. Has anybody done this? Has anybody done the third one? Yes. Third one, Devajit Ghosh. Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute you. Yeah.
Okay, Victor has done a lot of you. I also see Devajit Ghosh was the first one to ping, so I'm going to give it to him. I also see Gayatri is given the answer here. Okay. All right, Devajit, come on.
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Tell me. Chalo.
Yes.
Okay.
So, ma'am, yeah. So I'm reading box wise. So in the first box, the police officer is saying, "Hey, stop the car right now." Then in the second box, he is saying, I am warning you, stop the car. You can't run it in this way on this road. If you don't stop, I promise I will make you cry." Then in the third box, he is saying, enough is enough. You will have to pay a heavy for this ride. Just let me in. Then in the fourth box, while in the interactive portion, the police officer is saying, what the hell is this? Don't you have common sense? Corona has not gone yet. Then in the fifth box, the people who are in the car, they are saying, sir, one person becomes positive in our locality. That's why we are going to another place.
Achha, so they are going together to another. So it is like migration in a car, literally, with so many of them. Okay,
yes.
It's interesting, Devajit, how you have brought in the corona virus situation. But the other thing is also I'll tell you another twist that some participant had said, wherein that said that I'm going to catch these people. They're not following rules. It's COVID time. There are so many together, and then they come and he says, "How can you all travel together?" So they say, "Who are you to tell us? You first wear the mask. You're the police guy."
Mm-hmm.
Right, so there was another twist that one participant in one of my sessions had also done with this, but very interesting. Thank you so much, Devajit. Again, what was your thought, Devajit, when you looked at this thing?
As this corona pandemic is still going on, so while seeing that many people in the car, so the thought came to me that the police officer may tell them that you should not ride in this way in this time because of corona. Yeah.
Okay, so I think COVID is on everybody's mind right now, literally. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the next strip. Okay. All right, Garfield. Who's done Garfield? Who's done Garfield? Anybody chose Garfield? Nobody? Somebody chose Garfield? I can't see that. Yeah? Nunchave, would you like to present it? Nunchave, can we have you present it, please?
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute.
Okay, okay. Shubham has also done.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute you. There'll be
Yeah.
notification on your screen saying the host is telling you to unmute. Can you please?
I think Nunchave, you have put it on the thing, but I would like you to speak up, please.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. So actually, this came into my mind because whenever I have to send a mail to my supervisor, I take a lot of time to compose my email. So I'll just read out because as you can see from the chat, it has to do with grammatical error. So Garfield is composing a mail to the editor at the Telegram. I just chose a name of National Daily. So it's written, "Good morning, madam. I hope this mail finds you well. I am also good because I read your newspaper this morning." And John, the human, says, "Your grammar is horrible. The editor is a male, so madam should be sir. DIS is also spelled THIS this. U should be YOU. GUD should be GOOD. And BCOZ should be BACAUSE. So then Garfield, with the shocked expression, he just stares at John, and after John leaves, he corrects the mail. That's all.
Okay, all right, very practical, very thing. You get grammatical errors and you correct it. But I think this is something that we constantly deal with. I always tell my students, don't write SMS language, right? Don't reply to mails with a K. That's the most annoying thing anybody can do. I'm like, if you don't have the time to write one sentence, you're not invested. I mean, don't give me an answer with a OK or a K. You know, that's like the worst. But that's a very nice thing to look at it. Well done, well done. Rishabh, I'm not taking that K. I don't know if that's a leaf that's following it, but okay. I also see Rajeshwari. Rajeshwari, that's a first thing, I think, Rajeshwari. I don't know why you were not able to mute yourself. I see a lot of interesting things. Okay.
I'm trying to unmute Rajeshwari. She's in the meeting.
Okay. Okay. Rajeshwari, do you want me to move back to the first one?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Give me a minute.
Okay.
My PPT takes a bit of time to. Okay, the first one, yeah. Chalo. All right, let's have this.
Okay, this is a conversation between a mother and a child. So, mother is busy in cooking, and suddenly the child bumps up and says, "Hi, mom, look at this." He somehow found a paper, and the mom replies, "Yes, Kim, I am just busy. I'll just look at it later." But Kim replies, "But mom, I thought this may be important to you." Mom, "Okay, fine. What is it?" "Just a paper. Why don't you read it?" Kim, "Sure, mom." Kim looking very keenly. "It looks like someone's 10th grade report card." "Whoa, it's Kavita Naik." "It's mom. It's you." Then mom in shock. "What?" "Just give it to me back." And they start running. Mother chasing the child.
Okay. All right. That's actually, can anybody tell me what's this comic strip? Who's the character? It's a very famous character. It's Calvin.
Yes.
It's Calvin.
Yeah.
Looks like Dennis the Menace. No, looks like Dennis. Yeah, Dennis is also very similar. But it's Calvin. Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Rajeshwari. That was funny. Thank you. All right, let's move on to this strip. Who's done this? Quickly, guys. We have just one participant per strip, right? So we're going to take the first come first. Lot of you, Zahida, you have also written about report. Acha. So here there's a child about the report, okay? Yes, that's Calvin and Hobbes, correct. Okay, anybody has done this? The baking one? Nobody? Then we'll move on to the next one. Zalichka, you've done the baking one? Okay, Zalichka, could you please present it?
Yeah, you're unmuted. You can please continue.
Yeah, Zalichka, please present. You have been unmuted.
We're not able to hear her.
Zarichka, you're not audible.
Here?
Better.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So this is conversation between husband and wife. So
Okay.
the first box. So the wife starts, "Hey dear, what are you doing?" "Helping you, my love. You said when that day comes, the world is going to come to an end." Next box. "Right, nice, so easy." And the wife replies, "I can't believe it. He's baking something?" Next box. The husband says, "Smells so nice." And she's still telling, "I can't believe it. Your first cake is on its way." The next box. The husband says, "Wait, what's going on?" And then the wife, "What?" And the husband, "Isn't that supposed to happen?" So he's still telling, "I'm not sure how much baking powder I was supposed to put, a spoon, a cup, or perhaps I put a washing powder." The next box. The husband says, run for your life." And the wife says, "I knew it. I've told you, the world is coming to an end."
That was a good one. Well done. A lot of humor there. Well done, Zalichka. Thank you so much. I think the washing powder thing was funny. Okay, good one, everyone. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay, who's doing this? The last one. Who's doing this? Trinath, you have raised your hand. Would you like to do the last one? Trinath, is that why you have raised your hand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Trinath, over to you. Yeah.
So the first box, Calvin says, "Hey dad, what are you doing with my trolley?" Second box, "I'm fixing the brakes so that you can play." Calvin, "That's great. Yay, I can play again." Box 3, Calvin says, "Let's play to Hobbes." Hobbes, "Wow, it's exciting." Box 4, Calvin says, "Just give some push." Hobbes, "Sure, here we go." And box 5, Calvin says, "It's thrilling." Hobbes, "I got something in my hand." Next box, Calvin says, "What is it?" Looks back and says, "My God." Hobbes, confused, he he he. Box 7, Calvin says, "Oh, we are flying." Hobbes, "Yeah, I'm scared." Box 8, Calvin says, that's the last box, "What have you done?" Hobbes, "I thought it's just an extra grip to hold on." Okay.
How are you closing it?
I mean, like, what do you mean, ma'am?
I got the thing. Are you closing that line? I thought that's an extra grip to hold on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, well done. That was nicely done again, Trinath. Very nice. Very, very creative, everyone. Right? Okay. What's important for you all to hear, understand is each of your comic strips, there's something in it, right? There's some amount of emotion. So there was either humor or there was, something you related it to COVID, somebody related to their line of work, right? Somebody related to their experience of writing an email. Zalishka, I liked your thing on the baking thing. Both the Calvin and Hobbes things were also very, very relatable. Okay. So when you're telling a story, when you're building a narrative, this is what you need to do. Make it your own. I could give you the most random things, but how do you make that comic strip or make those words or make those lines your own? That becomes very, very important. I see some of you also pasting it here. Somadeep, thank you, Somadeep. Thank you, Sukanya. I know you all want to say it. We kind of, if we have time at the end of the session, we'll get back and we'll do a couple of more of these, okay? But I have a little bit of content that I want to finish. So let's do that and then we'll get back. I hope that's okay, participants, yeah? This does take a little bit of time to present, but well done, everyone, and thank you so much. Okay, so now that we have understood how ethos, pathos, and logos comes back into our narrative again, let's look at the art of storytelling and what is it that you should keep in mind as a presenter, right? Remember, stories mean that you want people to be invested, right? So stories demand an emotional investment. How do you make your audience feel? That's important. The second thing, I have to pick and hold your interest. How are you thinking? What are you thinking? What is it that's running in your mind? I have to constantly tap on that. Okay. The next thing, the way you all act, the way you all react, it's the energy that I'm bringing in to the presentation. Okay, so how are you reacting to it? What are you thinking? What are the kind of questions you're asking me? That your reaction to an activity today, for example, it's about these things are bringing energy to the message, right? It brings energy to a session. So we are going to feed off each other's energy, and that's an art of storytelling. And finally, stories cause us to take action. If any of you go back and remember, the next time you write an email to your guide or to anybody that Nunchave did a presentation wherein she spoke about grammar errors, you will actually remember. Okay, somebody wants to go back and bake, you will know that of all things, washing powder is not something that comes into baking, right? We're all dealing with COVID right now, and you know that you cannot really, it's no more the time when you jump into a car and you go somewhere, right? So we will all relate to it. We'll all behave if our memory sticks to what we have done in the session today. And that's the art of storytelling. I can make my audience feel a certain way. I can make my audience think a certain way. I can make my audience act towards it. So I can give you a message wherein I tell you, you know what, let's do sustainable thinking. Right? So I want all of you to conserve energy, right? When you're drinking water, use your own bottle. Don't use disposables. Right? I always carry water. I mean, there are times when I've had a day-long session in Bangalore and I've had to travel like 4 hours, 2 hours, to and fro. I've carried like 2-3 bottles of water. I always carry my snacks. I carry my lunch. I prefer to do it because it's, you know, it's.
Ma'am, you're muted for some reason.
What time did I get muted? What was the last thing you heard?
That you pack your lunch.
No. Okay, so with the packed lunch, my voice got muted. I have no idea how, but anyway, so the whole idea is, you know, how do I talk to you about sustainable living? I could talk to you about sustainable living and say, you know what, I don't buy plastic items at home. I don't buy my child plastic toys at all, right? So the art of storytelling is about getting that interest. The art of storytelling is about inspiring somebody to act or behave in a particular manner. And when you do that, remember, you're calling for action. But then again, there are a couple of styles in which you can do that. One is the fact and story. It's a fact-based timeline. What's the current scenario? What are the possibilities? For example, somebody working on an ecological problem, right? You could be studying, say, you know, how the water usage is and how the water levels have gone down in cities. And your story could use a fact and story timeline, which means what was 30 years back, what is it currently, what is the new possibility? What will happen? By 2030, 2040, Bangalore will not have water. What is it that we should do? You compare and you create a plan. You say, if we do these things, then we will be able to save water better. We will be able to optimally use water. So what you're doing in your research and your presentation is a fact and story format. I'm only sharing 3-4 techniques with all of you. You could use different techniques differently. But what I'm saying is this is a very, very common technique. What is and what could be. You begin the picture, you paint the picture with what is the current scenario, then you tell them what is a new possibility, then you tell what is happening. Okay, for example, a year back, our understanding of COVID to now our understanding of COVID, it's impacted the way treatments are being done, it's impacted the way research is being done on vaccines, it's impacted the efficacy studies, it's impacted, you know, you have studies where they talk about the mental health of people who have survived COVID. Right? You have long haulers of COVID. How has it worked? Right? So there's a fact and story format. It's fact-based. It's reality-based. But then you're creating a plan as a researcher and saying what can work. Okay? And there's a call to action at every point of time. Have we understood? These are only techniques. I'm giving you a very broad outline, but each of you, while you're presenting your research work, you can pick on any of these styles that we are talking about and talk about it. Okay, you will have to obviously customize it to your topic, but I'm just telling you a couple of narrative styles. Okay, if you have any questions, do ask them, but understand why this becomes important in narration. The next one, okay, very commonly used again. I don't know what's happening. Hold on. Neharika, do you see my slide moving?
No, ma'am.
Looks like the internet is really patchy. I'm so sorry. Sorry guys about that. Okay, now the next thing is the drama. Okay, the drama is the hero's journey. It's also called the monomyth in narrative style. Okay, the focus is on a personal story and a personal narrative. And a lot of you who are doing ethnographic studies, a lot of you who may be studying a particular author's writing style, a lot of you could be studying, say, a particular character in literature or mythology, you will follow what's called the hero's journey. Okay, a lot of times folk tales, writings from around the world follow this. So it's like, what happened? What was the challenge the hero faced? What was the crisis? How the hero hit rock bottom? When I say hero, it's not gender specific. I mean the main protagonist, the character. Okay, then rise, the return, the lesson. Okay, there's always a lesson in a hero's journey. There's always a fall, there's a crisis, and then there is a solution, and the person rises. Now, this could either be a person, okay, in your narrative style, but this can also be a particular component that you're studying. So say I am looking at understanding, like I said, the example of single-use plastics in households, especially during COVID times, and how the use of single-use plastics has increased. So over there, the usage of single-use plastic, right, becomes the hero. The monomyth is about single-use plastic. And in the crisis is what? COVID. When the crisis is COVID, single-use plastic has increased. Now what happens? Okay, but then we have the solid waste management policy that came in, that recently was drafted, and new aspects of it came into being. But each state again has specific aspects on that policy. Okay, then we tell, okay, how do we then use it? How do we reduce it once COVID reduces? Because in the long term, single-use plastic is not good. Then how do we manage the usage of, or how do we do the solid waste management better? So over there, the single-use plastic becomes your hero. So when I say hero, I don't necessarily mean a person. I don't necessarily mean a character. I mean, in your research, what is it that you're working on? For example, if I had to talk about my research work-life balance would be my hero. And how do I talk about it like this? I can talk about the crisis that's there if there's no work-life balance in people's life. Then you hit rock bottom as human beings. But then the rise is the policies that organizations have. What is the public sector doing? What is the private sector doing? What's the entrepreneurial sector doing to look at work-life research? And then how does it help people maintain work-life balance? What is the kind of support system we have? What is the kind of ecosystem we need to build? Right? So what have I done? My core concept of my thesis I've converted into a hero. Right? Are we understanding? Have you all understood the fact and journey? For example, the fact and story thing, if I give you the example of a series like Chernobyl, right, where they have spoken about an incident and they go back and forth in the narrative, right? Most of our Bollywood movies are somewhere the drama. They follow the hero or the monomyth storyline. Kanchan, is it allowed in papers? In papers, you will have to follow what they are expecting you to do. But what's important for you to understand here, Kanchan, is this is what you do with presentation. When I say narrative styles, remember, for your writing, I have already covered your styles of writing and narrations. This is when you're presenting, what is your narrative style that you can adopt. Okay, Kanchan, does that clarify your doubt? Okay, this is more to do with your presentations for your research work. Okay. All right, the next one. Okay, how many of us know these dolls, right? A lot of us do. Okay, a lot of us may even have them, right? The nested loop. It is a storytelling technique wherein you layer 3 or more narratives, right? So your most important component of the story is at the core. And then you use stories around it to elaborate. A lot of studies from literature can use nested loops too. Okay, it's like a friend telling you about a wise person in their life who taught them an important lesson. And the first loop is your friend's story. Second loop is the wise person's story. But at the center is the most important lesson. It is what the friend has learned and what the friend wants to teach you, for example. Nested loop is a fantastic component when you have multiple things to talk about. Okay, and you layer one story about the other, but at the core is the main message of your study. Okay, so that's a nested loop. That's a form of narrative style wherein I talk about multiple things, but at the core, there is one single thing that's guiding all the stories that I'm talking to you about. When I say stories, I mean, it could be research findings, it could be, gaps in literature that I've found, and how can I talk about it? Yes, it's also quite pertinent for autoethnography, true. Is it called a frame story, Nida? Nida, is the frame story more like a petal structure, wherein one layer comes out at a time? Yeah, so a story within a story. Okay, in that case, the frame structure is very similar to the nested loop. But if it is like a petal structure wherein one petal comes out at one particular time, or like the onion peel theory wherein you peel out theories, that's very similar to the nested loop again. Okay, and yes, epics are combination. Yes, Shamanuja, epics are a combination of these personal, all these things, right? You have it's a monomyth, it's a hero's journey, each of the epics that you talk about, but each of those epics have nested loops because they have multiple storylines within them. And there are multiple, threads or branches in a story. Okay. Yes, Kanchan, if you're studying on nursery kids, start with a case study, narrate the story of the kid, and then go back. Arabian Night story, or even the Alibaba and the Charles Chore. Lot of these fables follow these methods. Okay. Then the fourth one that I'm going to share with all of you, there are a lot more narrative styles, okay, in presentation, but I feel these are more pertinent to us as researchers. The fourth one is what is the pitch or the hook, meet, and payoff, right? Here, when you're presenting, you give the audience a sense of the place and time. Okay, what is it? Okay, that's a hook. So I gain your attention with the most important thing I talk about that day. So I started today saying, you know what, today's session is on storytelling, but you all wanted to understand about virtual presence, about body language. I've added that. So that's my hook for today. I've tried to gain your attention on that. The meat is, what is the content? What is my presentation all about? And finally, the payoff is what? From today's session, I'm not expecting you to apply this immediately, right? The payoff is not immediate. The payoff is something that will happen in a short while or in some time. But then in a hook, meet, payoff, there's always something that the audience takes back with them. And then the payoff can happen in a while. It's a conclusion. It circles back to the beginning, but it happens in a while. Okay, so hook, meet, payoff is also like people pitch. How many of you have seen Shark Tank? How many of you have seen Shark Tank? Right? It's a thing where people pitch business ideas and they get the money to work on their ideas. Right? A lot of you may have seen Shark Tank. It follows the hook, meet, payoff. Yeah, if you haven't seen, please watch it. It's an excellent hook, meet, payoff narrative style. Okay, the way the presenters come, they get only a few seconds to present and then they present it. Okay. What we'll do next is, we have understood, right? Hook, meet, payoff, the drama, the fact and story, and the nested loop. The next thing that I want all of you to do is I'm going to show you a video. Hold on, I have to stop share and share again. I think I switched off the sound. Okay. Many of you may have seen this. It's very popular this year. Isn't it amazing? Yeah, it is. It is. I know. I know. And what's beautiful here is this, right? Who is the hero? The grandfather is the hero, right? What's a fact and story? The fact and story is he may not be able to lift up the granddaughter because health not permitting. So he practices, the dumbbells and to work towards the goal. Yeah. Okay. The nested loop is the story within the story, right? So you have the larger story wherein they show you somebody practicing. But what's at the core? That the core is about taking care of yourself so you can take care of others. Okay. But what's the hook, meet, and payoff? The hook, meet, and payoff in the story is just the fact of seeing an old person doing dumbbells and doing things which everybody around thinks is impossible. Yeah, don't be afraid, right? From the community. Don't be afraid of judgment. Okay. It's a fantastic advertisement. All right. And I had to take the advertisement as an example because somewhere I felt this advertisement showed all of it together. Okay. Yeah, judgment's the word, colored. Yeah. All right. So any other thoughts, participants? No? Are we ready to do our final activity for today? Okay. I'm going to quickly ask this. How many of you have seen the Sainsbury's advertisement? How many of you have seen, there's a very famous Sainsbury's advertisement on the wall. Okay. Let me see if I can show it to you. Give me a moment. And then we will do the final activity. There's something just, hold on. Oh, I want to, there I am. Okay, give me a moment. Work for the course. What we'll do is while you work on the final assignment, I will find that video and I'll show it to all of you because it's absolutely brilliant. The Sainsbury's advertisement actually, all right, the Sainsbury's video actually is based on the 1914 World War I. And it talks about how soldiers came together during the eve of Christmas to exchange goodies. Okay. Now, the interesting thing was this, while the advertisement won a lot of awards that year, it also fell into a lot of controversy. But what's beautiful in that advertisement is the storytelling style, because the advertisers made that. Shubham, we have seen it. Yeah, the advertisers made that story after somebody discovered his grandfather's diary. Okay, so I'm going to show you that advertisement. I have it with me in the folders. I downloaded it. But let's get on to the final activity. Okay, so what's our final activity today? Our final activity is this. Okay, in your handbook, I want you all, it's 12:43. I want you all to spend the next 5-7 minutes, okay, to write your story. You can use, okay, nothing more than 30-40 words. Use 30-40, maybe maximum 60 words if you can write 60 words in the next 5-7 minutes. Okay, use any of the narrative technique and what is the core messaging that you would like to give. Okay, that is what I want you all to do in the next 5 to 7 minutes, and then we'll open up the floor for discussion. Are we good? Have we understood the activity? Participants, have you understood the activity? I want you all to pick any aspect. You can talk about a story from your childhood. You can talk about a story from your adulthood. You can talk about a story that's currently something that's recently happened with you. It could be personal. It could be related to work. I want you to choose one of the narrative styles. Okay. And I want you to talk about it. Okay. But I want you to do it in only 40-50 words, maybe not more than that. Okay. Participants, have we understood the activity? Yes, no, not sure. Why are we doing it? Have you understood the activity? Yes. Okay. Can we do this? Can we spend the next 5-6 minutes trying to write this up? Yeah. And then we'll have a couple of you share it maybe. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. All right, participants, 5 minutes. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I'm going to look for that video so I can show it to you all. All right. 5 minutes, everyone. Write your story. Use a narrative technique. Don't try to use all 4 of them together. It's going to take time. Pick any one and write your story. Pick any one narrative technique. Which slide do you want to see, Rishabh, again? Which slide? So I'm going to show you the narrative slides, okay? If you all want, take a picture because I'm not sure if, give me a moment. I'm just putting it on slideshow. Okay, I'm going to just take a picture if that is the slide style you want to use. Okay, this is your fact and story. All right, participants are moving on. The drama, Okay. The nested loop. Hook, meet, and payoff. All right. Okay, participants, I'll give you all about 5-6 minutes, right? And then we will discuss. Yeah. Okay, participants. Rishabh and Anmol, have you all got what you're looking for? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. All right. Over to you all, participants. All right, participants, keep it crisp, keep it short, right? Just a few lines, just a few lines. As long as you tell us to start, we're good.
Participant is done, ma'am.
I don't know how I'm muted.
I don't know. For
No
some reason.
problem. It's okay. That's very nice.
Shamanuja is done.
Yeah, I can see that. That's very nice, Zahida. Rajkumar, what you've written is disturbing, but you can reach out if at any point of time you need any help, right? I'm also a trained counselor, but I can also put you in touch if you feel that you need help. And if you want to share something, this platform is a safe space. Shubham. Oh, I'm so glad, Rajkumar. I'm happy about typos like that. Okay. All right. You just, for a moment, it was very scary. I'm glad to know. But yeah. Okay. I see a lot of you have put up. Anybody would like to share? This is your platform. So let me quickly do one thing. Let me quickly show you all that video. Okay. That I wanted to show you, and then maybe we can take the thing. We can do that. Yeah, Meera Niharika, is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me show you the Sainsbury ad because it's really fantastic. It's amazing from a narrative style. Okay. Sharing sound. All right, all good.
Jenkins. Oakley. No. Ein Britter kommt! Ein Britter kommt! Jim? Jim! No, don't do it! Halt! Er ist nicht bewaffnet! Nein, Otto! Jim!
My name is Jim.
Mein Name ist Otto.
Pleased to meet you, Otto.
Freut mich.
Rose, she's called.
Die ist schön. Schön. Danke.
Happy Christmas.
Frohe Weihnachten.
All right. I see a lot of you have written your stories here. Would somebody like to read it? I have a lot of beautiful stories here. Niharika, I would like to make a request. Maybe all these stories we can just put them in a single document and share it on WhatsApp also later, because we may not have the time to read, but some of them are absolutely wonderful stories, very incredible stories. That's coming in here. But yeah, whoever would like to share, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I want to see you all when you all share your stories. Okay. All right, everyone. All right. Let's see. Who would like to share? Whoever. I think Shamanuja, you wanted to share a story. I saw you saying yes. Over to you, Shamanuja. Yeah.
Okay, probably I misunderstood. I thought any experience could be a story. So if it is okay, then I can read, because most of the stories that I see are the entire life stories. Mine is a very small incident.
No, it's your narrative. You can take either a single thread.
Okay.
Or you can take, a lot of people have written life experiences, which I think is also beautiful, because I think that's where the human connect comes, right? Nobody asks us how we are managing.
Yeah.
I think in the current time, the fact that the moment somebody asks you something you want to share, right? And I'm so happy to read those stories, but we'll also take yours. I mean, if it's a single incident, please go ahead, share. And after you, we'll have 2-3 people who will share one of those stories that they have written.
That way, it is far more trivial as compared to the profound things that I read. Well, and deliberately, I'll come to the narrative technique and core message at the end, and let me read the story first. I woke up around the dawn. Yes, I had a dream. I was conversing with Nandita Das, urging her to make a movie on Amrita Pritam. She seemed interested, but soon figured out that my interest was not so much in Amrita Pritam, but more in Sahir. Though she nevertheless seemed excited with the idea, she asked me a lot of questions, especially about Sahir. I somehow went to sleep again. When I woke up, it was already morning. There was Vivid Bharati Bhule Bisre Geet playing. It was Sahir's birthday, and his songs were playing. I didn't even know it was his birthday. So it is nothing as compared to the stories that I read. It is just one incident, and it is true. So the core message is something that is probably in your subconscious mind, manifests in various ways.
Yeah.
And narrative technique, probably I think it is hook, meet, and payoff, because I start with the dream, and the meat is, of course, the entire thing about Sahir, and payoff is how it kind of comes back to me.
Okay. Yes, Shamnuja, it is a hook meet payoff. You had me at Nandita Das and Amrita Pritam. Two very favorite. Niharika, please go on mute.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I think it's hook meet payoff. Like you said, it's about the subconscious and how that often converts to how you do things. Wonderful. I think it meets a requirement. I don't think there was any misunderstanding at all, Shamnuja. Well done. You had us at your story. All right. Anybody else who would like to share? A lot of you have typed. Anybody who's typed but who's not spoken before? Let's look at somebody who's typed, not spoken before. Yeah, let's. Somebody who's always been a little shy to speak, but actually has written a story today. Anybody? Or do we? I know there are some of you who constantly write, which is wonderful. Again, anybody would like? Okay, since nobody's raising their hand, whoever would like to go next, we can take maybe 2 more stories and then we'll close. But Niharika, do collate all of them and put it in a Word doc for us to read.
Yeah, I'm currently doing that.
Thanks. Okay. Anybody who would like to share next? Come on. Anyone? What's the first thing that went through your mind when I said write your story? This is our 9th session together, choosing a theme. Okay, that is something that went to your mind. Okay. The emotion, what did you feel, Narasimha, when you say emotion? Past, memory?
Yeah, like it's memory, like how I was when I was maybe 2022 and how I am now, and what transformed me between those 25 and the 35 years or whatever. So that was the first thought, you know.
Okay. It's interesting, right? How one little cue kind of brings out a thought in you all. Anybody who would like to share next? Anybody? Come on. Quick, guys. We are at 1:02. I think some of you are also looking at leaving the class, so let's do this quick. Whoever puts up their hand first will share next. Such lovely stories. Or should I just randomly pick one more person?
Guys, if you want to speak, you can just raise your hands. Or
raise your hand, yeah. If you think it's too personal, you don't want to talk about it, but you want to share it writing, you can do that also. Yeah. Okay. The idea of today's session was this, right? When we communicate, what did we do last class, right? Last class, we looked at communication basics. Okay. Are you able to capture your audience? What should you keep in mind? What are the clarity components? Today's thing is about how do you then tell that story? You could be great communicators, but are you also a storyteller, right? Because storytelling is a skill. Storytelling is something that we can build over time, right? Just like everything, I believe everything can be more or less learned. Okay, unless you have absolutely, like my psychomotor skills, I have huge disconnect and I could never learn driving. But for me, that's, that I feel that's a block. Okay, but I think most people can learn. Yeah, you thought you were shy, but you do have company. Yeah. But again, the virtual space does give people a little safe cocoon to kind of express themselves. I'm going to pick one more person. Rishabh, would you like to share? I don't know, you're talking. I see your mouth moving, but you're on mute.
I'm trying to unmute you. Yeah.
I can. I mean, I've written my story there on the chat box. Should I read that?
You could read that out here. And
then I don't know which style would it be, but I'm just going to read it as it is. Being raised on the banks of a Ganga rivulet in an economically disadvantaged childhood in West Bengal, I developed an inclination towards economics, biology, psychology, and with family pressure, I took to business studies and career. After 11 years of training and work, I'm now pivoting to environmental policy, rekindling my original interests in natural and social sciences, now for global impact. Kudos to me for never giving up the power of human spirit.
Okay, so what's your narrative style? What's the narrative style here? Anybody, what do you think is his narrative style? There is a hook meet payoff in it with the way you have started, but there's also fact and story. There's a monomyth more than anything else. It's your personal journey.
Is it drama? Usually people tell me that I'm very dramatic when I write.
Yeah. People tell you you're full of drama. Is that what you say? Okay, drama is good. Drama is good. And may your tribe increase. I think a lot of us have to find our calling, right? And some of us take time to do that, which is absolutely all right. Okay. All right, everyone. So on that note, we're going to close today's session. The last session that I'll be doing next week for you all, I'm going to look at how do you convince people? How do you persuade your audience, right? We look at a couple of techniques. We'll understand Simon Sinek's golden circle. We will look at the circle of influence given by Stephen Covey. Okay, and I will send you all a questionnaire, which I want you to fill up before the session. Okay, I will try and see if I can send it to you all by Friday, so you'll have enough time. Okay, again, no right and wrong answer. Fill that up. We will discuss what that means. We will see how well you all influence. Okay, and that's what we will do. If any of you have any other questions, put it on the chat. Anything else you want me to cover, considering it's my last session next week, do write that in. I will see what I can bring in. I know you all want to do the online timing thing, but that's very personal. Rishabh, it's very difficult for me. I can only tell you that if I have 2 hours, how do I break up a session and if that helps you? But it's very, so when I first started facilitating or doing sessions, I would actually write down minuscule 2 minute, 1.5 minute, 60 second, 45 second karke. Yeah, it's only over time now I can do larger chunks. But that's the best way to develop the writing and the speaking. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Niharika, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful session. I think Meera is here. I hope her connection is established now. Yeah, Meera, over to you.
I mean, thank you as always, ma'am. I'm very sorry I missed most of the class and I'm sitting at the dark at this point. But thank you, everybody. I'm sure you all would have enjoyed a great session. So I did see parts of it and it was quite interesting. So we will see you again for the next class. And as usual, I have to thank Dr. Sangeetha Menon for facilitating this and Dr. Madhurima Das for giving such excellent lectures. We are actually a little sad, I'm sure, all of us, that the next one is going to be our last session with her. But we should say that we thoroughly enjoy all your sessions. And thank you, Niharika, for all the emergency support and all the other support you always give. So thank you very much for that. And also our team, Ashwini and Abhishek. So thank you, everybody, for being wonderful audience. And we will be opening up the WhatsApp group. So if you have more questions, we'll take those there. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and I'll post up all the stories in a Word doc in the WhatsApp chat.
I think Victory wanted to present. I'm sorry I missed that message, but we'll read your stories. Yeah, I don't want to take much of your time, so we are already 8 minutes over time. Okay, all right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.